Welcome to the Up One Podcast, because with everything we do, we are going up one. I am your host, Russell Horning. Right here is my good friend, Dr. Dex. Not a certified host, but he is going to be a recurring host. He likes to travel for months at a time, and it doesn't make sense to put the entire podcast on hold while you want to go and have fun with your friends in LA.
And survive, make money.
Survive, make money. You got to do what you got to do.
Got to make a living.
And so for our guests today, we have... Introduce yourself, please.
I'm Jerry Farber, and this is my son, young Josh.
Not grandparent. And my name's Ray Rockman. Real name's Joshua Farber, so we're actually related. But
So, Jerry Farber, you are 86?
86.
86. So you were born in
March 8th, 1938.
1938. World War II just started, didn't it?
I was not, yes, I had nothing to do
Did you
with
get drafted?
I was too old for Vietnam, but I was in during the Berlin crisis. I was in the Army 2 years.
Oh, so you were in the Army?
Yeah.
Forcefully, or you joined?
Before Vietnam. Because if you joined for 6 months, you could do 6 months, but you were committed 5.5 years. So I went for 6 months, ended up staying 2 years, because there was a Berlin crisis.
The Berlin crisis, was that when the wall fell?
It was when we thought we were going to go to war with Russia.
That's why the wall was built.
Oh, so that was like, it was like the Cold War.
Exactly.
But
it was a Cuban crisis. I mean,
Okay.
you know what? Allow
Yeah.
me. The Cuban crisis.
The Cuban crisis.
Russia was going
The
to
Cuban
give-
Missile Crisis. I remember learning about that.
That's what it was, the Cuban
The
Missile.
Cuban Missile Crisis. So you went to Cuba?
No, I was stationed in New Orleans. I played the piano after basic training at Al Hertz and Pete Fountain. They were famous musicians.
And Fidel Castro, let's not forget about him.
I played the triangle in the Army band.
You played the triangle?
No, the leader of the band knew me from Atlanta.
You must have been a hardcore triangle player.
I'm going to be 200 people blowing trumpets and trying, and I would be at the end hitting that triangle.
Hitting the triangle?
I thought it was
You
John
lived in New
Wayne.
Orleans too?
Yeah, I was stationed in New
Where'd
Orleans.
you stay in New
Camp
Orleans?
Leroy Johnson.
Oh, you're a fan of New Orleans, Dr. Dex?
I am. I consider it almost like a second home.
Really? It was great. It was the best.
I heard it's really hot, but they have really good food and a lot of culture.
Yeah, I would think it's more swampy than Florida.
It's more swampy than Florida?
Yeah.
Really?
I saved I saved a platoon.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You saved a whole bunch of people?
I wouldn't let them eat the spam.
You get an award?
No, I got kicked. I had duty for two weeks.
Duty.
I never was in combat.
Oh, okay. So you were just playing piano for the Army?
I got in a fight
Triangle.
once.
You were playing the triangle.
I got in a
You were
fight.
playing the triangle for the Army.
I really wanted to play the piano, but no pianos in the Army bands. I did basic at a place called Fort Jackson, South Carolina. So the sergeants were World War II sergeants.
Yeah.
3 big, tough guys. And they had a ring up, like Friday Night
Oh,
Boxing.
y'all would box?
And there was a senator, and he got killed. He had a concussion. And because it wasn't allowed. The Army didn't endorse boxing.
Yeah.
But the sergeant thought it would toughen us up.
Were you born in Atlanta?
Born in North Carolina.
North Carolina, but you grew up in Atlanta?
Yes.
Nice. And what year did you move to Atlanta?
I moved here in 1961.
Did it seem like a city or did it seem more like a town?
I knew this. There was a Chinese restaurant open 24 hours, and I couldn't wait to tell my family, guess what? You can get Chinese food at 3 a.m.
That's some big city stuff.
Yeah, it was, right. And then there was a movie channel. The movies were on down here. Remember Ted
Yeah.
Turner? It was great.
You're starting the empire then.
You've seen Atlanta grow from the bottom up.
It was, well, let me tell you what happened, why I moved. I bought a little house. I needed my mother's help for $42,000 on Monroe Circle. It sold for
$1 million.
$872,000.
Golly.
And I sold it because I couldn't afford it. I couldn't, the
Property taxes and everything, yeah.
I sold it for $518. The woman that bought it from me sold it for $872.
And then she's probably going to sell it for 1.5.
in a few years, yeah.
Do we really think? I mean, how much more can people pay? It's a small little home.
Yeah.
So back then when you came here, when I came here in 85, like Cheshire Bridge and even a lot of parts of Peachtree Street, there was always a lot of like very risque bookstores and
Right.
video type shops and, sex paraphernalia stores. And I didn't know then, but just, through doing research and just like learning about Times Square and 42nd Street, do you think Atlanta had a little bit of that vibe?
No question. And I think that crowd is what made Midtown. I don't think it was just businessmen, the adventure of it. A lot of my friends that wouldn't go to Midtown.
Do you think a lot of people gravitated in the South here because of that kind of vibe? Because it wasn't like that in
I
other
think
southern
the
cities?
energy was relevant. It was a part of just
And it maintained. Even the youngins nowadays, we were attracted to Atlanta rather than a lot of the other cities in the South because it has its unique vibe. I've lived in the perimeter of Atlanta my entire 22-year-old life so far, and I don't have any need to move out because this is a growing city. It's a big city, but it's still a growing city. There's still a lot of opportunity to find successes before it happens.
The floodgates were open during the Olympics.
Oh, after the Olympics, everyone came here. Yeah.
I've seen a lot of blocks and buildings get torn down here since 1993 that even now the buildings, like the Dome, I remember when it went up. I can't believe I watched it go down.
Oh, the Georgia Dome?
And then, I always kind of wonder what's going on because the Yankee Stadium was like 100 plus years old.
Yeah.
And I was kind of wondering why everything's so recyclable now. I kind of liked when you go to like Cleveland, Ohio, and the stadiums are like Wrigley Field, and you go to these like really old-timey time capsule ballparks.
There's more people now, man.
Yeah,
We're growing by like a billion every few years.
I just the nostalgia of some of these older places that our grandparents or parents got to experience as well.
They're not big enough, bro. The Mercedes-Benz is
lot of,
like so many times bigger than the Georgia Dome.
Atlanta was an interesting place when I moved here in 85, though, and from 85 to 95, it completely flipped itself.
How do you think of it now compared to what it was?
Well, I'm glad I'm older now in the new Atlanta, but I wouldn't have wanted to have been a child growing up in this Atlanta. I think it was much more interesting and adventurous and more like a Goonies movie, It was like there was so many trails and train tracks, abandoned factories, and there was a lot to explore as a kid.
Right,
it was like the ultimate playground.
Now everything is like, you got to pay $90 to park, and then you have to pay $38,000 a month to rent the place, and you can't go anywhere for free. It's all been explored, huh?
Yeah.
It's overdone. I couldn't agree more. The idea, though, is like the average price of an apartment in New York is now $4,000 because people are making more money.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, that wouldn't be happening if the people weren't making money. I preferred it in 1962. Midtown was great.
So how old were you when you moved here? Because Ray was telling me that you came here and you started doing stand-up comedy, but that was after you were already playing the piano.
I played the piano for 10 years before I said hello or goodbye. And then I got bored of playing Misty 3 times for drunk.
So you just developed the stand-up comedy because you already did the music, but you wanted to have more of an intrinsic creative vibe to it.
I needed more energy from me, and I took a chance at the jokes.
It's genetic for you.
And when you're a Jewish guy in the South at that time, you had to run or face it and tell jokes. As a kid, I remember disarming people that wanted to beat me up when they found I was a Jewish kid by doing some joke. Plus my ears and nose helped too. Even Adam Sandler in more recent times, they had to work at integrating. First black act to work in a mix was Nat King Cole, and he got his teeth knocked out.
I got into a fight with his daughter, Natalie Cole.
Yeah.
I got into a fight with her.
What?
You did? No, really?
Yeah, really.
How so?
I was at a club after a charity, and Denzel Washington was there, and I was in a friend's section, and everybody had their jackets on the couch, and everybody stands on the furniture in clubs now, and even back then. We were all standing on the furniture, but we had a stack of our jackets in our friend's purses, and she told me not to stand on the jackets. She was like, "You need to get down off the couch." And I was like, "Oh, no. I was like, "It's all right." She said, "Get down." And she tugged at me a little bit. I said, "Hey, husband, Johnny Yaya, he came up and grabbed me and punched me, and we locked up and we fell on the ground, and that's when like the police and security
Were you
came.
drunk?
Wow.
Were you upset about it?
I was upset that everybody pinned it all on me and me being the one who was embarrassing and not her.
That's just kind of how it goes, though,
I wish I'd been there. I'd have cleared that house out.
We got Russell here today. Hey, Russell.
Hey.
It's good to be with Russell. We're so used to hanging around with the backpack kid.
As I start to get older, the backpack kid, it'll always be a part of me. I'll be 60 years old. People will still be like, "Hey, backpack kid."
And make you dance.
If I have the ability to, I will, just for the one time. But that doesn't mean I can't start branching out into other things that I want to do. Like this podcast, I want to be a lot more relatable. I want to be a lot more vulnerable. I want to be able to say more of what I want to say and have it have more of an impact. The people that know of Backpack Kid just know him as that kid that did the dance on stage, or he went viral on social media or whatever. Since that's already what's embedded in people's minds, I don't mind going out and start going as my real name for certain instances and start building a brand on my actual name. Because when you think about it, that's kind of what all kid stars do as they get older. A lot of them will go by a stage name or something while they're younger, but then as they get older, they start to mature into their actual name because they are who they are. In the Backpack Kid, once again, it was just that moment, and I'm still able to make money from it. I'm still able to capitalize off of it. Like I'm sure you know as well, Dr. Dax, if you were to change your name tomorrow, you would still be getting hit up, "Hey, Dr. Dax, I want you to do graffiti."
For me, my embellished character is my art. So the name that goes on my art is Dr. Dax.
Yeah.
It distinguishes me from any other Daxes there might or might not be.
You've always been Dr. Dax? Ever since you started?
Ever since I started painting a lot and doing other things, hustling in the streets, it all kind of coincided to being a doctor, being a master of
You got a PhD in graffiti,
Yeah.
huh?
When did you start knowing you were an artist?
No, I was an artist until I started kind of getting offered money and jobs. I wasn't ready at the time to do it for money. I just did it for love. I painted my name or whatever I wanted, wherever I wanted to
Yeah.
do it. And then I took a lot of time to ponder it, and now I enjoy it.
Have you worked a normal job?
I've had a normal job. You know, I was young. I worked in a sweatshop, was a roofer. I helped hang drywall, and a lot of things I didn't like and didn't last very long. And I learned really quickly that I better figure out another
way of doing life.
way to make money in life. Yeah. Guys I would work with are like, if you don't want to do this, you better start figuring out what you are going to do now. Putting that fire under my ass and that idea really helped me out a lot. And I'm glad that I started early and have been able to maintain my life through not just my talent, but my love, my passion.
You were raised pretty hardcore.
Well, I don't know.
I love to say that word, but I don't know if that's
Hardcore means like punk music. Your parents came from Poland and Greece. Their families are from there, and
yeah,
culture's just different, you know. So coming over here, it might seem a little bit hardcore or different, but to them, that's just the way things were from where they're from, you know. And they kept those values, I guess.
Right.
You know,
it definitely sets you up for greatness. Yeah, me and Ray, we were just kind of raised in the suburbs, normal lifestyle. I'm sure you've had your struggles. I've had mine, but not like you know.
I grew up in a tougher era. I think when I came to Atlanta in '85, there was just all these kids had come up missing in all these different ways, and climate here was a lot of people who were scared. Where I came from, it was kind of the opposite. I came from a place of
so you ran shit over here.
It was a good time for me to come here the way I was raised. I came a little bit thick-skinned and pretty tough, and it was a tough place, and I was young, so...
Yeah, you're very intimidating, but I can tell you're a good dude. We can tell you're a good dude.
Part of survival mechanism, too.
Yeah, for sure.
I was able to handle it and not let it get the best of me.
Yeah.
And that wasn't true for everybody. Creatives making something out of nothing and then everybody wanting in on it once it becomes something.
That's always how it's going to be, though. People don't want the process. They just want the results.
And I will tell you something else that I think at this late age is that artists like yourself, Russell, Joshua, is that you take your gift and you try to train other ones so they just don't idolize you or you. We can encourage their talent. Also, I was involved with a homeless shelter. It's called Peace Tree Pine. And Tyler Perry was in our shelter.
Really?
Homeless, for real.
Oh my, yeah, he was homeless before he got famous.
He was at our shelter. And they had to kick him out because he insisted on sleeping where the people who ran the shelter, which was cleaner.
The prices have been getting raised for everything, so the homeless population is just going to get higher and higher.
And the city, Columbia, South Carolina, Savannah, Georgia, it's just I can't help but notice it because I see it. And it's sad to see $6 billion stadiums where guys play games.
Yeah.
And you see these other people, they're all our people. We could reach out better. And artists can do it.
That's right.
Because you have power.
The police come through and sweep the place a couple times a day. They're literally just shoving everybody from place to place.
They gotta keep moving.
A lot of people have terrible mental illness, and I believe that it's even pushing them is starting to drive people mad. We have an out of control problem in Atlanta, so.
I went to Budapest. They say a bus will come and pick people up and bring them to a shelter. And I didn't see one homeless person on the street. It just causes so much confusion because it's like, why are we so successful in America? We have so much money, but it's just dispersed so unevenly. Power is a drug, bro. I say it all the time. Power is a drug. When you know you can flip a quick 100 million and you got to do some things that aren't necessarily moral to get that next 100 million, you're gonna do it if you're used to just
the power that comes with it all.
Yes, bro. Especially seeing all this happening with Diddy. I saw he had a documentary, like a downfall of Diddy documentary. Like he just abused his power so much over the years because he could. Like kings, queens of all across humanity, they've all abused their power because they could. Why not? What would be stopping them? And of course, morality and how you're supposed to treat people and everything comes into play. But a lot of people that are born rich, they're just taught that they have the power to kind of do whatever they want. And people that come from nothing and become rich, they remember a time where they couldn't do so much. Now that they can do so much, they want to just do whatever they want. You've got to be able to ground yourself in what you want to do and why you want to do it. Like how you said, artists have the ability to like make a cultural impact, but they don't do that as much as they used to because they'd rather just make money instead of giving back to the community, setting up events or doing stuff at homeless shelters and stuff. That's a big part of our society today, and it seems like it's almost glorified to just do what's more selfish than not. We don't want to conform, but we still want to make a living, and it's harder to make a living when you're not conforming. So it's just very confusing, especially being a youngin' in this generation with social media going rampant, and it's just putting a lot of us younger people in a mindset of what is everything? What is literally what is everything? What is anything?
You're getting deep on us, bro.
And we're just trying to kind of go with the flow, and figure it out as we go and just work hard, do what you're supposed to do, make good decisions financially, make good decisions spiritually. But at the end of the day, we still don't know anything. We're learning as we're going, but you come from an era where when you wanted to say something to somebody, both of y'all, when you wanted to say something to somebody, you would have to go up to them and say it. Nowadays on social media, you can say whatever you want to anybody with no consequence. As I was saying earlier, that's abuse of power.
This is what I find going on, too. It's very distracting. So I've reposted something about LeBron James last week. He gave $41 million to students in Akron where he's from.
Good for him.
Wait a minute, and 1,100 kids graduated Akron University because of LeBron. So some of the people, oh, Jerry, good story. I reposted it from somebody else.
Yeah.
But then I was getting, Jerry, you don't understand. It's just another guy. It's good for his taxes. In other words, people are looking for the darkest. He really did do that.
Yeah, 41 million, even if it was for the tax benefits or whatever, he still gave 41 million.
But I've reposted, I said, man, these kids are going to be paying taxes. They're going to learn, they're going to do well.
Yeah, look at all reality TV. It's all drama. No reality TV shows are big unless it's drama. People just want to see other people lose in their situation because it makes them feel better for not being in a winning position themselves. And so it's hard to find real people nowadays, which is why I hang around a lot of people that are in their 40s plus. I only have a couple friends that are my age because we don't make good decisions and we're not. You
guys are all strung out on TikTok.
Yeah, we got, as you say, TikTok brain, and that's a real thing. It's like sometimes my attention span doesn't let me think about things past 5 seconds. That's just how a lot of us are wired. And
you need to log out, man.
We need to log out, and I can log out sometimes, like when I'm out at the lake with everyone or whatever, or we go to the beach, we go to Jamaica. It's easier to log out, but just being home all the time, working on content or working on creative endeavors, it's easy to get caught up in the world of just what's going on around me instead of what's going on in me.
And separating yourself from that embellished character that is TikTok or social media.
Yeah, but regardless of how we feel, we still got to get done what we got to get done. And that's up to us to decide what we have to do for ourselves. Like me personally, I have 5 million followers across social media. I still come to this store a couple days a week and work a normal type of job. And sometimes people will come in here and be like, what are you doing here, bro? And you have all these millions of followers, like, what are you doing here? Like, but the reality of the situation is you got to find new opportunities as you get older and as things change, the business world changes. But me knowing that gives me more confidence in my ability to do that rather than just letting all these TikTok kids be like,
I think you're learning some good stuff here that you can't learn on TikTok and from being around this business and how this business is run.
Exactly. And I'm not mad about that.
It's knowledge for you. It's schooling. And no matter how much of a young celebrity you are, it's never too late to be smart.
It's never too late to be smart. I can be dumb as hell.
You've done a lot more for most people your age, by the way. It's like something you've done.
1,000%.
It's kind of interesting. Even my friends, like I'm 24, I feel like you were the first person I know that moved out with their parents. Most people are still living with their parents.
Yeah.
Not, like, no, I've always been like impressed by the way you basically made a living.
Thank you.
Doing what you're doing.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, it's all about what you're putting your mind to and what you're putting your thoughts into. Like this podcast, for example, I knew I wanted to start a podcast, and it took a couple of months to get everything situated, got the banner done and everything. But here we are today filming the first episode.
And you came on my podcast.
And I came on your podcast, and that kind of gave me more of an insight of what a podcast is like and the cultural impact you can make with a podcast. And me and you and you and you, we've all done a lot of stuff in the industry that we can share with people that are interested. We've all been through deaths. I'm sure you've been through so many.
I don't know why I found it like morbid.
I've been blessed to live this long. But
absolutely, and you're in great health. You're walking, bro.
And I never.
He's jumping on trampoline.
He's jumping on a trampoline.
Play basketball.
Again, at this age, you know what I think about more than anything? I want to see Joshua continue to grow as he has good friends. But that you've done something beyond what the talent allows. That you've given something. I love the expression, to the world you're one person, but to one person you can be the world. When I had the little club in Buckhead, a little comedy room, we had a woman named Janet Schultz. She taught children who were underprivileged comedy. She was a comedian.
Yeah.
And she would graduate their class at our club. And these kids, you could see them at the beginning of the 2 months class, shy and frightened and intimidated. By the end of the 2 months, they were blossoming, like you could see it, right? There were 10, 12-year-olds. She did it, she wanted to feel better. Every night she said, got this kid, he wouldn't open his mouth. Now we can't shut him up. He's so excited. Like I'm giving tens upon tens of dollars.
That's sick. Yeah, that's sick, man. That's a lot of money. I love old people, man. Old people, they have so much to share. They have so much insight.
I was lying on the sofa the other night. My girlfriend said, "You want to go upstairs and make love?" I said, "I can't do both." That's what happened. No, it's 8 steps, Dr. Jack said. Let's do it here or go out and watch Scarface.
You told me that you'd walked all the way from Columbus, Georgia to Savannah, Georgia.
And I wanted to do something eventful before I died. I lived with like death chasing me every day. I do something every day. Shooting the hoops. Do just, really.
That's a great mindset.
So far, so good. So I was pulling out of Lenox Square, slow to turn right, and this woman stopped, blew her horn at me, got out. She said, "Guys like you, I'd kill you. I want to make your life miserable." And I said, "Ma'am, I'm not looking for another relationship." So one day it'll be gone.
Do you plan on having any more kids?
I do think one thing that's kind of kept you alive is the vitality of still being interested in women. I honestly think that it's been a theory for me, because if you're 60 or 70 and you're married, you're kind of done chasing that. But I feel like for you, I mean, you still...
Just staying involved and interested.
Graffiti does that.
Yeah, I'm sure it does.
We all have that thing that we love to do, and that's how it should be. Everybody is good at something. I always say that because I am very dumb in a lot of ways, but I'm very smart in a lot of ways. I've been playing the piano for a few years, and a lot of people are amazed at how...
I'm amazed. You're incredible.
Well, thank you. And you've been playing 80 years.
It's about finding the talent within yourself.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, it gives me the confidence to know that I can do other things. Because before, that's why I started playing piano. I blew up for this dance. I didn't know anything about anything yet.
Question, what do you think is the biggest fumble of your career? Like, you'd had something on a plate and you just like fumbled.
I think street fighting at Trader Joe's for content reasons.
I would say the biggest mishap in my career was when I was 15. I was young, dumb. I just went on social media, just blew up on Saturday Night Live and whatnot. At this time, I was buzzing hard. So I made a huge mistake. My friend let me hold an airsoft gun, and I was at a video shoot, and there was a bunch of goats in an enclosure around the video shoot. Yeah, no, it's crazy. So I took I gave my friend the camera, and I was like, "Hey, record me. I'm about to shoot this goat with this airsoft gun." So I went up to the goat and I shot it with the airsoft gun. He filmed the video. I posted the video on my Instagram to my 500,000 plus Instagram followers, and with a caption like, "Look at me, I'm so cool. I just shot a goat." And I laughed in his face. I was in a pretty bad place when I was younger. I thought stuff like that was cool.
What happened to the goat you shot?
It was fine. It was completely fine. It just shook a little bit. Goats have very thick skin, but it was just the action, Everybody in my team was really mad at me. I just feel bad that I put so much of a burden on so many people and this animal because I wanted to just be a young, dumb, cool kid for views and thought it would be
Seemed like
respected.
a great idea at the time, didn't it?
That was a big hit in my career. I was watching Logan Paul's podcast the other day, and he was even vulnerable about talking about his situation where he showed a dead body in the woods in Japan on one of his streams in 2017. And that was a big hit for his career. He lost millions. As people can see through his actions nowadays, he's become a better person from it.
He was lost in the sauce.
He was lost in the sauce, and I was too. I learned from it. I ended up adopting a dog from the shelter a few years later, and I still have that dog, and it's the love of my life.
You.
I love having this dog. This dog gives me life and energy. When I was living alone, this dog was the only way I survived.
You have a tattoo?
I do have a tattoo of the dog. I have a tattoo of the dog right here on my chest.
Yeah.
Wow, good for you.
Sometimes God will put certain people or certain animals or certain things, certain situations in your life to make you appreciate his creation. Because when I was 15 and I did that poor thing to that animal, that wasn't me in a position of really being grateful for what's around me yet. But now that I have this dog, I have great people around me now. I have people that let me know when I'm doing something wrong, and they'll tell it to me straight. And
Steve Jobs wrote a letter to his children when he was dying of cancer, an apology, because he was never close to the children. He gave them things. He gave them cars and all that.
He didn't have the
most
time to spend
people
with
think
them,
would be great, but he never gave them time. We don't want the money. You're going to be dead soon. We wanted you.
What's meaningful for you at 86?
Just to see you and John and all of you live a long time and enjoy your lives. Just doing something beyond your own ego, so that when you go to bed at night, you did something not just to self-satisfy.
The universe will provide for you as long as you're doing right.
100%.
The universe favors those who do well. We try to show him that life is not all about money. It's about experiences and sharing love with friends and having trust and stability.
There's an expression, getting an erection is not a sign of personal growth. I had money at one time. I gambled. There's a documentary about me, about my gambling habit. was as bad as any heroin addict or worse, because I knew it, and I still would throw at $10,000 on football games.
Oh, sports betting.
I had people threaten to break my fingers one at a time. So
Gosh.
A woman filmmaker in town did a documentary, and she said, "Are you sure you want to be exposed?" I said, I got to be liberated from my darkness. I want other people to know how dark it is, and you can prevent it. You can work to do it, because I was in my 40s when that was going on. It's an act when I see these performers that come out from their darkness, right? They were talented. The saddest one is Robin Williams, to take his life, period.
Yeah.
And his daughter said, how could he be so unhappy and depressed, which he was for a long time. Had trouble with it, and then it came out. Most comedians are. Do you know that?
Yeah.
I don't know. Most comedians I know are dark. They do it to see other people laugh. You know, we do a show for an hour or two, but then we got to go make our lives make sense.
And adapt, being adaptable.
And we're meant to adapt.
We are, and we're very adaptable if you allow yourself.
People live in Alaska and they have like thick skin.
Comedians, I don't think they don't. There's no. It's one of those things where there's not a
lot to adapt.
Not a handbook for it.
Yeah.
So comedians don't. They don't do well on stage, but they don't know how to get off stage very well. And that's the problem.
Well, because the idea to me, it's like the idea when people are young, it's cute, but when you get to be 50, when I was 50 or 60, I'm telling jokes, taking off 8 pair of underpants to be. I was becoming a cartoon.
What?
Myself, a cartoon.
You were wearing
really, I still do it.
I'll show you some pictures.
Okay.
No, I do a striptease from the Full Monty, a tribute to the Full Monty, the movie.
Be blessed with one tonight.
So, but the point is, like, because most of the comics stay cartoon characters.
Yeah.
So they act, and to get real, it's not very funny. If I really were expressing how I'm feeling when I'm getting ready to do a show, I would never get hired again. Those things are in my mind.
It's important, though, to keep it real with yourself. I saw another podcast the other day where he interviewed a psychologist, and he said so many people are caught up in trying to be the same as everyone else, but it's our individual genetic DNA makeup within ourselves that makes us different, that makes us unique.
Like your thumbprint.
We've kind of dumbed that down to being weird or wrong or this or that. And of course, there's certain instances like serial killers. Of course, yes, that's weird, that's wrong. I'm a quirky, weird kid. I used to get bullied all the time. And then I started getting all these followers on social media and people started acting different. But for a while, I would get bullied a lot for the way I was.
You still do on the social media.
I still do get bullied for the way I am. So another question I have for you. So, are you glad you went through so much life before you had a kid?
There's no question that I could not have been as loving. I'm going to be gone soon. I'm done. Those earlier days were, I was ready. You mentioned about some things happen when it's the karma. Then Josh came. I was 63 years old.
Yeah.
I also don't know if it was exactly planned either. Like, I think it just kind
of... And his mother...
it was a welcome gift.
Yes, y'all are older than us. Well, let's just say that. We can learn a lot from y'all, but also y'all can learn some from us.
Definitely.
We don't have as much.
I learned from you. I've learned a lot from you.
Yeah, and I've learned a lot from you.
That is
Me personally, I don't plan on having kids anytime soon. But I do like the idea of you get to spend more time with the kid when you have a kid younger compared to when you're 7 years old and you probably only have a couple decades.
The difference in me personally, because I only really know how I was feeling, was time was so precious when he came. Whereas at 50, I'll get to know my kid.
Just do whatever you want. Yeah.
And it's important. Young people should wait. I want Josh to wait because it really is.
Nope, now, tomorrow.
There's money, there's crying, there's the diapers, it's just a lot. It's not glamorous, but it's better than glamour. It's a human being, and they look at you and it's trust, and it brings out a higher angel.
I love that. It's a mini you.
So how do you at 63 find a woman that can be childbearing?
You know what?
42.
So it's not too late for me. It's a good feeling being on this show.
Yeah, Jax, we don't lose that ability.
I'm 47, turning 48 this year, and programming and people would lead me to believe that I missed the boat on having the kid thing, but being on the show right now and listening to this makes me feel different about that.
I would never ever say to somebody, you got to have children. The idea of saying to somebody, well, you don't know what you're missing. I had a great life before Joshua. It's richer now. No, it's richer.
Of course.
It's an ocean instead of a swimming pool.
Yeah.
And some anxiety. You know,
of course.
What's the anxiety?
I can't say my life will be cut short. I'm 10 years older than most people died. Just to see more of you and to live. My life is good. It's sweet.
Right.
With me, I guess one thing that is interesting too is like, summers would definitely be spent with my dad. I always felt like there was a greater sense of urgency. Whereas it wasn't like
when you're just a 40-year-old dad, like you have like 40, 50 more years left. It's like you can kind of board, so do whatever. But like when you have an older dad, like every second counts.
Yeah, every second counts, and it's also like I'm not gonna spend a year in a different country.
Not now.
Exactly.
You can do that later in your life.
Exactly.
I feel because my parents are all both in their 60s now, and I'm starting to kind of feel that same way. Like I remember when they were just in their 40s and they just had me, or 30s, I can't remember.
60s nothing. He was 63.
He was 63 when you were born.
I'm on the other end of the spectrum. My parents had me very young, and I think having kids is a very difficult thing. And I see my parents go through it. And
your parents still around?
My parents are still around, but I've watched them feel very inadequate and perhaps even at times be inadequate. And then as I got older and started realizing like, holy shit, even at 25, I was like, can't imagine having kids at this age at 24, 25, and they were way younger than that. That kind of gave me perspective to forgive them for the things I had resented about them. So I think there's a lot of tough things on parents that are very young, especially if they haven't not just lived life, but figured out how to maintain and survive. And that's been very tough on my parents, and I think it's going to follow them through their lives as well. If you're absolutely not capable, maybe not have kids, by all means. Seriously.
I feel like reproducing is such a big part of our genetic makeup. Like we're meant to reproduce. Of course, that means you have the ability to not have kids. All other species, I don't think they can comprehend that mindset of not having kids. They all kind of just live to reproduce. And we are complex and we can think that way.
Does it ever occur to you the thought that all the chaos, Russia, Ukraine, Israel, Palestinian murders in America, that to me, a lot of it, maybe all, comes from just parents that don't care.
Maybe that's why they push everybody and program everybody to have so many kids so that we can have soldiers later.
Did you guys read about it, without mentioning the name of the fast food place, the guy that made the documentary about a particularly successful hamburger place?
He died. Yeah.
He died of all 3 meals for a month and made a documentary about it.
Is that what the McDonald's one?
He died?
Yeah,
I watched it. The guy died?
Yeah.
He died in a month?
I think it was.
Hold on.
No,
Yeah,
I think
he
it was
just
a couple
died.
days ago.
Just
Because
died.
he was making that documentary?
I don't know if
No,
it's because
2 weeks into it, he got sick. This came out from his wife. He got sick because he was eating that McDonald's
3 times a day.
3 times a day. And his liver was just...
Done
He
for.
was-
So
and
he
he-
died
so
from
much.
making
He just
something. 'Cause
died.
he did-
Yeah.
I think he did 2 different kinds at once. 2 different McDonald's. He did some other documentary I think he was working on.
Yes,
correct?
he did. Yeah, that's
I didn't know
correct.
he died, and I didn't know from
he
that,
just
but I'm
died.
not surprised.
Yeah.
He just died.
I've done a lot of drugs and partying, but I used to also balance it out by
Staying fit.
flooding myself with nutrients. And
Yeah.
people now won't even put anything that's medicinal or nutritious in their bodies.
My son's friend, who happens to be in the studio, they came up with an idea to open in Athens a restaurant called Karma. I love the idea. And there's no menu, but you get what you deserve.
Get a knuckle sandwich.
I had those myself. Had those.
Then who would be the differentiator on who deserves what? Are you God?
in my restaurant. Yes.
I feel it. I respect it. If I win, what would I get?
Nothing. Like,
I wouldn't even get a water.
Backpack kid, do you have a penis?
I do.
Is it circumcised?
It is.
All right.
He thinks I'm a Ken doll and I have no genitalia.
Is this like a common theme?
I think that he has a USB plug for an asshole.
How'd you get on that show? Sorry. No.
Okay, so Saturday Night Live, pretty interesting story. I was blown up on social media. Katy Perry was scrolling social media and found me, reached out to my team, and was like, we want this kid on social media. I love his vibe. He's going viral on social media. It's unique. So they invited me out. I missed 2 days of school.
All right.
That was the best part. I missed 2 days of school. It's pretty straightforward. The team reached out, flew us to New York. They didn't pay for me to go. They SAG paid like $700, and I get about 20 cents in royalties a year. But obviously it was worth the opportunity to go on Saturday Night Live and have 14 million people watch me live.
Now you're a child star.
What do you think would happen if that never happened?
I haven't thought about that in
He'd be working
years.
at a gas station in Gwinnett.
I'd just be working at a gas station. You know what's
There's nothing wrong with
crazy?
that, by the way.
No.
That's an honor.
You know what's crazy? I met somebody working at a gas station in Gwinnett that looks exactly like me.
Was it Chanel O'Connor? Separated at birth?
Yeah, that's like my twin. I just lived the normal teenage life growing up. But yeah, it opened up a lot of opportunities for me, obviously. It definitely changed my life. It put me into more of a business perspective because I started traveling and I was around a bunch of millionaires and billionaires learning how life really is. And that's why I chose not to go the college route, because I'm learning so much about life right now and how it's supposed to go. And that's how the business world is, and that's how you're able to make a living for yourself. That's how you're able to make money. You find opportunity and you chase it.
He goes to YouTube University.
Now, I'm not saying college is a bad thing. I'm not saying don't go to college. I just never was really good in school. So I think I would just be spending a lot of money learning a bunch of things that I don't necessarily know how to comprehend. I've been pretty straightforward on the things that I've wanted to learn because I know that's how this world goes. If you're not going to go to college, you got to work twice as hard. If you're not spending money on the university to teach you these things, you have to teach yourself. I want to learn music. I want to learn piano. I have to do this very, very frequently all the time for the rest of my life, and that's how my life is going to be. And same with acting, same with social media. You have to learn these things. You have to learn how it works. You got to learn how you can make it work for yourself. Because me personally, as I said, I'm not very good in school. I never really was. I love to be really lit and have high energy everywhere I go. And in the business field, that can bring attention to a business. That can bring attention to this service. And that's how social media influencers are able to make their money. They have a personality that people are drawn to, and they promote other people's products. They promote businesses. They promote their own brand. They promote their own business. The more you put yourself out there in the world, the more opportunities are going to come to you. And that's how it works. Of course, I'm not making as much money as I did when I was younger in that viral moment, but I'm still a full-time self-employed 22-year-old that's making more money than a lot of other 22-year-olds. I don't see that as I'm doing worse than I did, because that's just a bad way of looking at things. I see it as a blessing, and I see it as a way to grow, and I see it as a way to expand and do more with what I have. I like to be resourceful, and I like to learn how to be resourceful, and that's what life is all about. It seems like we're all on the same page with our mentality, and that's a beautiful thing. We're not combating each other's viewpoints on things. I'm sure that's easy for older people to do to younger people that try to say things like, you don't know shit. And that's easy for young people to do about older people. You don't know shit. I say that all the time. I always think y'all don't know anything. But you do. But sometimes you don't.
I had a question that goes back that I meant to ask earlier, but how long does it take to walk from Columbus, Georgia to Savannah?
It took 7 weeks. There were little fundraisers along the way.
Did it rain?
Not once.
Not once? Ooh, that's God on y'all side.
And I fell in love with a homeless woman. We ended up dating, and the best thing, I could drop her off anywhere I wanted to. I remember that. That was
What? LaGrange, yeah, LaGrange County.
That's where Bubba Sparks is from.
Really?
I met him actually. I was in the studio with him and Jamie Ray.
Oh, is that right? I used to live with him.
Really?
Yeah.
You used to live with Bubba Sparks?
Yeah,
oh, yeah, he told me that y'all lived in a
Even
house.
Sleepy Brown lived in the house. What's your podcast called?
It's called the Up One Podcast. Because with everything we do, we're going up one. Not down one. Not sideways. Not neutral. We're going up. This podcast, we're all getting a lot of insight from each other. That's going to make us level up in life. Just 1 point.
Up one.
Yes, up one. Not necessarily 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 or 8, but we know it's at least 1 because we're getting insight. We're learning more about.
Did we up one today?
I think we did. But without further ado, I appreciate y'all for watching.
Thank you.
Is episode number 1. Stay tuned
one.
for episode number 2 of the Up One Podcast.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Stand up.
that's a wrap.
My back was falling out.
That was great. That was about 2 hours.
Good seeing you.
Let me check. Let me check.
Great. Thanks for.
Kindred spirit.
No, that was hour 50. That was hour 50.